In the heart of 17th century Africa, amid the dense jungles and treacherous rivers of Angola, rose a queen like no other, a woman of fierce intelligence, political brilliance, and unmatched courage. She faced down the Portuguese Empire, one of the most powerful colonial forces in the world, and won. Her name was Queen Nzinga. Nzinga was born in 1583 in the Kingdom of Ndongo, located in what is now modern-day Angola. Her father, Angola Mkiliwani Kiesamba, was the ruling monarch, a man caught in the rising storm of European expansion. By the time Nzinga was a child, the Portuguese had established a colonial foothold on Africa's western coast. Their presence brought devastating consequences: the transatlantic slave trade, endless warfare, and cultural upheaval of the local African people. The Portuguese Empire had a presence on the western African coast since 1444 when they reached Senegal and Gambia and began engaging in slave raids. They established trading posts here along the coast to acquire gold, ivory and slaves. In 1471 they arrived on the Gold Coast, which is now known as modern-day Ghana. Here they established Elmina Castle in 1482, the first European permanent structure in sub-Saharan Africa, and began trading gold and later became deeply involved in the slave trade here on the Gold Coast as well. In the 1480s, the Portuguese began trading with the Kingdom of Benin, exchanging European goods, especially with an emphasis on firearms, for slaves, pepper and textiles. This helped them establish good diplomatic relations and even a cultural exchange with the Kingdom of Benin. For example, the Portuguese-style artwork became popular within the kingdom. In 1483, Portuguese explorer Diogo Chau reaches the mouth of the Congo River and establishes contact with the Kingdom of Congo. This marks the beginning of serious Portuguese interest in Central Africa, expanding beyond the territory they already held within West Africa. Over the next century, Portuguese missionaries, traders, and soldiers begin to infiltrate the Ndongo kingdom, which of course is Nzinga's homeland. In 1575, Portugal formally established the colony of Luanda, which becomes the capital of Portuguese Angola. However, Nzinga was no ordinary royal daughter growing up in these conditions. She was educated, fluent in Portuguese, and trained in statecraft and diplomacy. In a patriarchal world, she was already preparing to lead. By 1622, the Portuguese had pushed deep into Ndongo territory, taking land, captives and more control. In response to this, Nzinga's brother, Ngolo Mbande, sent her to negotiate with the Portuguese governor of Luanda, likely due to her fluency with the Portuguese language. At that meeting, a moment occurred that would become legendary. The Portuguese offered no chair to Nzinga, an insult intended to signal her inferiority. Undeterred, Nzinga ordered one of her attendants to crouch on hands and knees. She sat on the servant's back, eye level with the governor. This was seen as more than defiance, it was symbolism. A queen who would never kneel before an empire. The negotiations succeeded. Nzinga secured a peace treaty, recognition for her brother's reign, and an agreement to return the enslaved people. But the peace was short-lived. Just 2 years later, in 1624, her brother died, possibly by suicide, possibly by Nzinga's own hand. Rumours swirled that she had poisoned him to claim power. Whether true or not, Nzinga took the throne of Ndongo. Immediately she faced enormous challenges. The Portuguese had broken the treaty. They resumed slave raids and armed rival African states against her. Nzinga responded with ruthlessness and genius. She formed alliances with neighbouring kingdoms. She adopted Christianity publicly to win diplomatic favour, even taking the name Ana de Souza after her baptism, a move that confused and disarmed the colonial powers. However, ultimately was not enough to satisfy them. She eventually was exiled by Portuguese-backed forces and fled to the east, taking control of the kingdom of Matamba. There, she rebuilt her power, restructured the army, and began a long war of resistance. She built a formidable military force, famously including a corps of elite female warriors, sometimes called her Amazon army by European observers. These women were fiercely loyal, rigorously trained, and willing to die for their queen. Nzinga put guerrilla tactics, ambushes and scorched earth strategies, anything to outmaneuver the better equipped Portuguese who continued to encroach on her territory. She exploited rivalries between European powers, at one point even aligning with the Dutch who had seized Luanda in 1641. For nearly 3 decades, Nzinga kept the Portuguese at bay. Her kingdom became a refuge for runaway slaves and disaffected warriors. In a continent being carved out by colonial greed, she stood as a fortress of resistance. people faced not just military invasion but spiritual warfare. Portuguese sent missionaries demanding conversion and obedience in equal measure. Nzinga played their game and played it better. She used religion as a tool, switching between Catholicism and African spirituality, depending on who she was dealing with. She used marriage alliances, spy networks, and even gender performance. Some accounts even say she dressed as a man, took male concubines, and demanded to be addressed as king rather than queen, all to assert dominance in a male-dominated world. By the 1650s, the war with Portugal dragged on for decades. Nzinga was now in her 70s, a remarkable age for the time. The Portuguese, wary and overextended, offered peace, but Nzinga, ever the diplomat, demanded terms that recognised her authority and independence. In 1657, a peace treaty was signed. Nzinga secured recognition as sovereign over Matamba and the right to trade freely, a victory nearly unheard of for an African ruler in the age of European colonisation. She had done what few could. She fought an empire to a standstill. Nzinga ruled Matamba until her death in 1663 at the age of 80. In her final years, she focused on strengthening her kingdom's institutions, ensuring it would endure beyond her lifetime. And it did. For nearly a century after her death, Matamba remained independent and powerful thanks to the foundations she laid. But her legacy extends far beyond Angola. In the modern era, Queen Nzinga has become a symbol of anti-colonial resistance and black female power. Streets, schools and monuments in Angola bear her name. She's celebrated in literature and art. In the 21st century, as African nations re-examine their histories and reclaim pride in their pre-colonial pasts, Nzinga stands as a warrior queen whose defiance still echoes. Queen Nzinga was not perfect. She was a ruler shaped by war, sometimes ruthless, sometimes pragmatic, but she was always extraordinary. A woman who rose to power when the world told her she couldn't, a leader who outsmarted colonial governors, led troops into battle and built a legacy that would outlive empires. She was not just a queen, she was a nation, a movement, a storm. And in the pages of history, she is not forgotten. She is Nzinga, the lioness of Africa. Thank you all for watching this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. This is a little project I've been thinking about starting on and off for, to be honest, a few years now. I really like history and love researching things, especially in cultures that are unfamiliar to me, like the one we discussed in this video today, and often find myself going down these rabbit holes, and I thought it'd be fun to start a channel and hopefully communicate and start a community with those who are like-minded. If you have enjoyed this story, make sure you hit the like, subscribe and turn on notifications for more incredible stories from corners of history you've never been taught. Who should we cover next? Do let me know. I'm open to suggestions.